War had come to the outer rim faster than anyone expected, and no one knew how it started. One moment the colonies were busy with trade, repairs, and quiet nights under strange stars, and the next moment alarms were screaming across the network. The enemy arrived like shadows slipping through cracks in space, leaving confusion behind. Soldiers rushed to their posts, civilians hid in shelters, and commanders tried to understand what force could attack so suddenly. Rumors spread about a creature leading the assaults, something huge, fierce, and unstoppable. They called it the Bloodfang, though no one knew its true name. Reports spoke of a towering alien beast covered in armor plates that looked grown rather than built. Some said it moved like a storm, tearing through defenses as if metal were cloth. Others swore it ignored entire squads only to strike a single target with painful precision. No two stories matched, yet everyone agreed on one thing. The Bloodfang inspired a fear deeper than the war itself. Even hardened soldiers felt their hands shake when they learned it was near. In the middle of this growing chaos, a human medic named Rylan moved from station to station, helping whoever crossed his path. He was not a fighter, though he had been trained to defend himself. His duty was to keep others alive, and he took that duty seriously. As evacuation orders spread, he carried wounded soldiers to shuttles and treated burns from enemy weapons. Many thanked him, but he barely heard their words because every rescue felt smaller compared to the dark presence spreading through the rim. The Bloodfang was approaching. Command announced that a final line of defense would be formed around an old research facility on a frozen moon. It was not meant for battle, but it stood far from civilian areas, giving them time to escape. Rylan was assigned there with a mix of soldiers, engineers, and scouts. The facility felt cold even before the moon's frost touched the walls. Lights flickered, machines' hums echoed down empty halls, and everyone waited for the unknown enemy. Rylan noticed how often soldiers glanced at the door, afraid the Bloodfang would appear. Hours passed without contact, and tension grew heavier. Some soldiers whispered that maybe the Bloodfang would not come, that perhaps the enemy had changed direction. But deep inside, no one believed that. The pattern of destruction across the rim pointed straight toward them. Rylan tried to focus on preparing medical kits and organizing supplies, yet the silence made every movement feel louder. When the first tremor shook the ground, people froze. A second tremor followed, stronger than the first. The walls vibrated softly, and a cold thought entered every mind. The Bloodfang had arrived. Outside, lights flickered again as scanners struggled to read what was approaching. The creature did not move like a normal life form. Its shape confused sensors, its steps broke patterns, and its presence felt like a storm pressing against metal. Soldiers lined up near the entrance, their weapons raised but their breaths uneven. Rylan stood behind them, his hands shaking despite his efforts to stay calm. He had heard every story, every whispered warning, yet none prepared him for the heavy thudding sound now shaking the snow. Something enormous waited outside. The door seal creaked as the temperature outside shifted sharply. Frost spread across the metal like thin fingers. The soldiers braced themselves, thinking the enemy would burst in with fire and claws. Instead, the door remained closed, though the shadow behind it grew thicker. Then, with a slow, grinding sound, the outer alarm stopped. Silence pressed against the room until even breathing felt too loud. Rylan wondered if the creature was simply waiting, testing them, choosing its moment to strike. The uncertainty wrapped around the group like a cold chain. When the door finally opened, it did not explode inward. It slid aside with a slow, heavy motion, as if pushed by something that understood strength but chose restraint. A wave of cold air rushed into the room, carrying the scent of snow and distant fire. Soldiers tightened their grips, and Rylan felt his heart hammer against his ribs. The Bloodfang stepped into view, larger than any story had described. Its armor gleamed with frost, its wounds glowed faintly, and its eyes scanned the room with an intelligence that felt unsettling. It did not attack. Instead, it paused inside the doorway, lowering its massive head as if sensing the fear around it. The soldiers did not fire, though several nearly pulled their triggers. The Bloodfang moved one step forward, its weight shaking the floor, but its posture changed in an unexpected way. It did not raise its claws or bare its teeth. It lifted one injured arm, revealing a deep wound glowing with strange energy. The beast then lowered itself slowly, sitting with deliberate care, placing the wound in clear view. Rylan stared in disbelief. He saw no rage in the creature's eyes, only exhaustion and something that almost looked like trust. For the first time, the war felt different. Something new had begun, something no one had expected. Rylan stepped forward before he realized he had moved. The soldiers tried to stop him, but he shook his head and continued, feeling a strange pull he could not explain. The Bloodfang watched him closely, but it did not move except to shift its arm so the wound was easier to reach. Rylan knelt beside the creature, feeling the heat of its body and the cold of its armor. He raised his medical tool with slow, calm hands, knowing that one mistake could end his life. Yet as the green light touched the wound, the Bloodfang relaxed, breathing in a deep, steady way that silenced the entire room. Everyone watched as the impossible moment unfolded, and for the first time since the war began, hope slowly pushed through the fear, rising from the quiet connection between a human healer and the legendary Bloodfang. Everyone in the room stayed frozen as Rylan continued healing the Bloodfang's wound. The soft, green glow reflected on the creature's armor, making the sharp metal plates look smoother than before. The soldiers behind him exchanged confused looks. They did not understand why this terrifying creature was allowing a human so close, and they did not know what would happen next. But no one dared interrupt. The tension felt heavy, like the air itself was watching. Rylan's hands moved slowly as he worked. The wound was unlike anything he had treated before. Strange energy pulsed through it, and the flesh underneath the armor looked tougher than human muscle. Yet the Bloodfang stayed still, lowering its head in a calm way that felt almost gentle. Rylan could see pain in its eyes, but also something else. It felt strange to think of such a massive creature feeling fear or exhaustion, yet the Bloodfang's quiet breathing carried both. One of the soldiers whispered, asking if they should call for backup, but another quickly silenced him. Any sudden noise might break the fragile peace. The commander stepped forward a few small steps, but even she seemed unsure. She spoke softly, asking Rylan if he knew what he was doing. He admitted he did not. He was only following instinct. Something deep inside him told him the creature did not come to kill. It came because it needed help. While he worked, the Bloodfang watched him with eyes that glowed faintly blue. Its pupils shifted in shape, narrow one moment and wide another, as if studying every movement. Rylan could feel the creature's breath brush against his arm. It smelled like cold earth and metal. If the creature wanted to attack him, it could do so in a heartbeat. But it remained completely still, trusting him more than any human in the room trusted it. A soft vibration passed through the floor again, but this time it did not come from the Bloodfang. It came from outside, somewhere far across the icy plain. The commander checked her device and frowned. Enemy forces were still approaching. If they reached the facility, they might open fire without understanding what was happening. The Bloodfang raised its head suddenly, sensing the danger before any alarm sounded. A deep growl rumbled inside its chest, though it stayed seated. Rylan finished sealing the glowing wound. The light faded slowly, replaced by a softer color that blended with the creature's fur. He stepped back slightly, giving the creature space. The Bloodfang lifted its healed arm, turning it to examine the work. It touched the spot where the wound had been, testing its strength. When it looked at Rylan again, its expression changed. Its eyes softened, and its ears lowered in a way that resembled gratitude. Before anyone could react, the Bloodfang lowered its head until its forehead almost touched the floor directly in front of Rylan. The gesture shocked the entire group. No one had ever seen the creature bow. Soldiers whispered nervously, wondering if this was submission or something else entirely. Rylan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He realized the creature was not just thanking him. It was showing a sign of respect. Outside, the vibrations grew stronger. Something big was moving across the ice, and even the facility's walls trembled. The commander ordered scouts to check the perimeter. They raced down the corridor, leaving the others standing in silence. Rylan looked at the Bloodfang, trying to understand if it had brought danger with it, or if the danger was chasing it. The creature turned its head toward the doorway, its muscles tensing again. It rose slowly to its feet, towering over everyone once more. The scouts returned moments later, breathless. They saw several enemy walkers approaching from the distance. These machines were known for destroying entire defense lines with ease. They were heavily armored, fast, and designed to crush anything in their path. The soldiers prepared for battle, but fear followed them. They knew they were outnumbered and outgunned. The commander activated the shield generators, but they flickered weakly. The facility had not been built for war. As the alarms began to ring again, the Bloodfang stepped forward, leaving Rylan behind. The creature stood between the humans and the open doorway. Its posture changed completely. The calm and gentle presence vanished. In its place rose a fierce guardian, strong and determined. Its armor plates shifted with a metallic sound, locking into defensive positions. Blue energy flickered across its chest and shoulders, glowing brighter than before. The wound no longer slowed it. Ryland's healing had restored more than muscle. A powerful roar filled the room, shaking dust from the ceiling. The soldiers stepped back, startled by the sudden change. The Bloodfang was ready to fight, but not against the humans. It faced the enemy outside. Ryland understood now. The creature had not come to surrender or destroy them. It had come for help so it could continue fighting the real threat. The commander hesitated. Trusting a creature that had been feared across the rim felt like stepping into darkness. But the Bloodfang had shown no aggression toward them. It had allowed a human to touch it, heal it. And now it stood like a shield in front of their entire group. She made a quick decision. She ordered the soldiers to hold fire unless the Bloodfang turned hostile. Ryland approached slowly and placed a hand on the creature's lower arm. The Bloodfang glanced down, its eyes glowing softly again. He whispered that they were with it now, that they would fight alongside it. The creature gave a deep rumble, a sound that felt like approval. The enemy walkers came into view through the doorway, their lights cutting through the frozen terrain. The Bloodfang stepped outside, snow swirling around its feet. The humans followed cautiously, forming a defensive line behind it. For the first time in this war, two sides that were once enemies stood together, united by survival and an unforeseen bond. As the walkers charged forward with heavy metal steps, the Bloodfang lowered its stance, ready to meet them head-on. Ryland watched with a racing heart, unsure what would happen next. But he knew one thing for certain: the creature that everyone feared had chosen to trust a human, and that choice was about to change everything. The first enemy walker reached the edge of the frozen plain, its heavy legs sinking slightly into the snow with each step. Blue warning lights blinked along its armored frame as it scanned the area for targets. When it detected the humans gathered near the research facility, it prepared its weapons, aiming cold metal cannons toward them. But before it could fire, the Bloodfang stepped forward with a deep, echoing growl that rolled across the ice like a warning thunder. The walker paused, almost confused. Its sensors locked onto the massive creature, registering something powerful, something unusual. The Bloodfang's armor glowed brighter, shifting colors as if reacting to the enemy's presence. Ryland stood behind the creature with the other humans, watching as the glowing energy spread across the plates like veins of light. He had no idea what the Bloodfang was preparing to do, but he sensed the creature had not shown its full strength yet. Snow burst into the air as the Bloodfang charged. It moved faster than anyone thought possible for something so large. The walkers adjusted their aim, firing pulses that cracked across the plain. The blast struck the ground near the creature, throwing white shards everywhere, but the Bloodfang dodged with surprising speed. Its claws dug into the ice as it leaped forward, crashing into the first walker with enough force to send it sliding backward. Metal screeched, sparks exploded. The Bloodfang's claws tore into the walker's leg joints, ripping them apart with powerful motions. The machine wobbled, losing balance, and fell onto its side with a loud metallic thud. The entire line of soldiers behind Ryland let out small gasps. They had never seen anything take down a walker so quickly. But more walkers approached, each one leveling its weapons. The Bloodfang lifted its head and released another roar, a sound so deep it vibrated through the humans' chests. It was a roar not of fear, but of defiance. Energy flared across its armor, forming a protective glow. When the next volley of shots came, the creature braced itself. The blasts struck its armor but were partially absorbed by the glowing shield. The Bloodfang slid back a few steps, but it remained standing. Ryland watched the creature closely, noticing the slight tremor in its legs. The shield was strong but not endless. Every hit the Bloodfang endured weakened it. The soldiers saw this too, and they began firing at the walkers, hoping to draw some attention away. Their shots were small compared to the walkers' weapons, but they created flashes of light across the battlefield, forcing the machines to divide their focus. The commander shouted orders, directing her team to target specific joints. She knew they could not destroy a walker alone, but they could slow it down. Ryland stayed behind the lines, though he felt a strong pull to keep watching the Bloodfang. The creature fought with a mixture of strength and intelligence, striking weak points, dodging blasts, and using the terrain to its advantage. One walker managed to catch the Bloodfang off guard, firing a beam that hit the creature's shoulder. The armor cracked, sending fragments into the snow. The Bloodfang stumbled, letting out a pained growl. Ryland's heart jumped. He wanted to run to the creature, but he knew the battlefield was too dangerous. The Bloodfang turned its eyes briefly toward him, and for a moment he saw vulnerability there. Then the creature charged again, refusing to fall. The commander ordered 2 soldiers to activate an old energy turret on the roof of the facility. They climbed quickly, fighting the cold wind. When they powered it on, a powerful beam shot across the field, striking one of the walkers directly in the chest. The armor melted under the heat and the walker collapsed in seconds. Hope spread through the humans like a spark, but hope did not last long. A distant rumble echoed across the plain, deeper and heavier than before. Rylan looked up and saw a much larger walker approaching. It towered over the others, covered in thick black armor and glowing red lines. The soldiers' faces turned pale. They all recognized this model. It was a command walker designed for final assaults. Its weapon systems were stronger, its armor harder, and its AI smarter. It would not hesitate like the smaller units. The Bloodfang saw it too. The creature growled softly, almost like a warning to itself. Rylan could sense that the Bloodfang had fought these machines before and knew how dangerous they were. The large walker raised its massive cannon, charging a powerful shot. If it fired, the blast would destroy half the facility. Without hesitation, the Bloodfang sprinted forward, leaping onto the fallen walker for height. Using it as a platform, the creature launched itself at the command walker, slamming into its side with full force. The impact shook the ground. The walker staggered but did not fall. It swung its mechanical arm, striking the Bloodfang and knocking it into the snow. The creature rolled but rose again, breathing hard. Its armor flickered with fading light. Rylan saw that the Bloodfang was reaching its limit. He looked around desperately for something that could help. His eyes landed on a portable energy amplifier inside a damaged supply crate. He grabbed it and rushed toward the front line before anyone could stop him. The commander shouted his name in panic, but Rylan ignored her. He reached the Bloodfang just as the creature was preparing to attack again. He raised the amplifier, connecting it to his medical device. A bright surge of green energy burst from it, flowing straight into the Bloodfang's armor. The creature froze for a moment, shocked by the sensation. Then its armor began to glow brighter than before, stronger and smoother. The Bloodfang turned its head toward Rylan, eyes wide with surprise. Rylan stepped back, shouting that the amplifier would boost its shield temporarily, but only once. The creature seemed to understand. Energy pulsed through its armor like a living flame. The command walker prepared another devastating shot. The Bloodfang roared and charged with renewed power, its body a blur of glowing light across the snow. The humans watched, breath held, as the creature collided with the massive walker in a clash that made the ground shudder. The battle was far from over, but something had changed. The Bloodfang was no longer fighting alone. The moment the Bloodfang collided with the command walker, a shockwave rippled across the frozen plain. Snow lifted in a wide circle, swirling around the 2 titans as they fought. The command walker tried to stabilize itself, metal claws digging into the ice, but the Bloodfang's renewed strength pushed it back step by step. The humans watched from the facility entrance, unable to look away. They had never seen anything like this, a creature and a machine locked in a battle that looked like it belonged to legends, not real life. The Bloodfang's armor glowed fiercely, the energy amplifier boosting every movement. Each strike it delivered rang out like metal thunder. The walker countered with powerful swings of its mechanical arms, each one strong enough to crush a human in a single blow. But the Bloodfang ducked, twisted, and dodged with unnatural grace for its size. Still, the command walker was durable, its armor built for war. Even the Bloodfang's strongest hits left only dents. Rylan held his breath as he watched the creature push forward again. He knew the amplifier's energy wouldn't last long. The glowing lines on the Bloodfang's armor already flickered slightly. The creature must have sensed it too, because it attacked faster and with more force, determined to end the battle before the boost faded. The command walker fired a sudden blast from its shoulder cannon. The beam struck the ground beside the Bloodfang, exploding in a burst of bright red light. The creature was thrown off balance, sliding several meters across the ice. Its claws dug into the frozen ground to stop itself, leaving deep scars in the snow. Rylan took a step forward in fear, but the commander grabbed his arm, reminding him he couldn't approach during the fight. The Bloodfang rose slowly, shaking its head to clear the dizziness. The flickering glow across its armor dimmed for a moment, then strengthened again. But Rylan saw how the creature strained. The amplifier pushed its limits. If the Bloodfang fell now, the humans wouldn't stand a chance. The command walker advanced, its heavy steps echoing like drums of doom. It raised its massive cannon again, preparing another devastating shot. The humans scrambled for cover, knowing this one could level the facility completely. But the Bloodfang reacted first. It sprinted forward with incredible speed, launching itself at the walker before the cannon reached full charge. The beast clawed at the walker's chest plate, tearing through layers of armor with glowing energy-enhanced strikes. Sparks burst from the machine as internal wires snapped. The walker stumbled, firing its cannon wildly into the sky, the shot tearing a bright hole through the storm clouds. Soldiers cheered when they saw the creature overpowering the machine, but the battle was far from finished. The command walker activated its secondary weapons. A burst of rotating blades extended from its arm, slicing the air as it swung at the Bloodfang. The creature leaped back, but one of the blades grazed its armor, leaving a long, deep scratch that glowed with damaged energy. The Bloodfang growled deeply, not from anger alone, but from pain. Its shield flickered again, weaker now. Rylan felt panic rise inside him. He looked at the commander and the soldiers, searching for something they could do. The commander ordered the turret team to focus fire on the walker's joints again. The beam hit the machine's left knee, melting the metal slowly. The walker faltered, its balance compromised. The Bloodfang immediately seized the opportunity. It lunged forward, slamming its shoulder into the walker's damaged leg. The giant machine tipped sideways, crashing into the ice with a deafening sound. Its arms flailed, digging into the ground to push itself up. But the Bloodfang didn't give it the chance. It climbed onto the walker, claws glowing bright green from the amplifier's fire. Rylan worked as fast as he could, sealing the Bloodfang's wounds with steady hands. The green light from his medical device pulsed softly across the creature's fur and armor. Snowflakes drifted from the gray sky, landing on the Bloodfang's head and melting instantly from its body heat. The battlefield around them looked quiet now, but everyone knew silence after a fight never lasted long in war. The soldiers kept watch on the horizon while Rylan continued healing. The Bloodfang breathed slowly, each breath deep and heavy. Its strength had not fully returned, but its eyes followed Rylan with calm focus. There was no fear anymore, only trust. The commander stood a short distance behind them, speaking quietly with her officers. They were discussing what the walker's attack meant. The enemy would not send a command walker unless something more important was happening. One of the soldiers approached Rylan, handing him a small power cell taken from the destroyed walkers. The soldier believed it might help power his medical tools. Rylan thanked him and attached it carefully. The device hummed stronger and the beam brightened. The Bloodfang flinched once at the sharper energy, then relaxed as the pain faded. While he worked, Rylan noticed something strange beneath the creature's armor plates. Symbols, glowing lines shaped like ancient markings, appeared faintly on its skin. They resembled patterns found in old galactic ruins. Rylan wanted to examine them more closely later, but for now the wound came first. The commander finally stepped forward, clearing her throat. She asked Rylan if the Bloodfang was stable. He nodded, saying it would survive if it rested. The commander exhaled in relief. She then turned her attention to the Bloodfang. She didn't speak loudly, only enough for the creature to hear. She thanked it for protecting them. The Bloodfang lowered its head slightly, acknowledging her words. Before anyone could continue, the facility scanners beeped sharply. The soldier at the panel shouted that another wave of enemy signals had appeared, but these ones were different. Rylan looked up from his work, sensing a shift in the Bloodfang's posture. The creature stiffened, its pupils narrowing. Something about the approaching signals alarmed it deeply. The commander ordered the screens zoomed in. The scouts rushed closer to the monitors. What they saw made several of them freeze. Instead of walkers, a formation of smaller but faster drones moved across the sky. They glowed red with energy and left dark trails behind them. The pattern of their movement looked coordinated, controlled by a single intelligence. But the largest signal wasn't a drone. It was something far bigger, something alive. Rylan felt the Bloodfang tense beneath his hand. The creature shifted slightly, raising its head as a deep rumble vibrated through its chest. The commander asked what was approaching, but Rylan didn't know. Only the Bloodfang understood. The rumble outside grew louder. Ice cracked in the distance. The soldiers raised their weapons again, though fear returned to their eyes. The enemy coming toward them wasn't a machine this time. The Bloodfang stood shakily, ignoring the pain still running through its body. It took a step forward, claws digging into the frost. Rylan stepped in front of it and told the creature it was still hurt, that it needed more time. But the Bloodfang stared past him with urgency. Its breathing quickened. The glowing markings under its armor brightened slightly, as if responding to something unseen. The clouds above them shifted suddenly. A deep shadow expanded across the sky. The cold wind sharpened, blowing snow sideways. Everyone looked upward at the same moment. A massive shape descended from the clouds. It was another Bloodfang, but this one was larger, far larger. Its armor was darker, almost black, with red glowing cracks across its plates. Its eyes burned with a fierce, fiery color, and unlike the Bloodfang they had helped, this creature moved with aggression in every step. When it landed on the ice with a thunderous impact, the ground shook violently. The humans stumbled. Rylan clutched his equipment. The Bloodfang they had healed lowered its head, letting out a soft but distressed growl. The new creature answered with a roar so powerful the air vibrated. It was not a greeting. It was a challenge. The commander whispered in shock, realizing what this meant. The Bloodfang they helped had been hunted not by machines alone, but by its own kind. The larger Bloodfang stepped forward, claws carving deep trenches in the ice. Its gaze locked onto the wounded one, ignoring the humans completely. It roared again, louder, forcing the injured Bloodfang to step back. The drones circled above, watching like silent observers of a ritual. Rylan tried to understand the behavior. It felt like dominance, not simple aggression. The larger creature wanted the smaller one to submit or die. The wounded Bloodfang stood its ground, though its body trembled. It refused to bow. Rylan acted without thinking. He stepped between the two creatures and raised his hands. Soldiers shouted his name in panic, but he didn't move aside. The larger Bloodfang stared at him in confusion, as if humans were nothing more than insects in its way. The wounded Bloodfang growled sharply, not at the larger one, but at Rylan. The creature wanted him to step away. This was not a fight a human could stop, but Rylan did not move. He shouted that the creature they helped had saved them, fought for them, trusted them. He said he would not let it face this alone. The larger Bloodfang's eyes shifted toward Rylan, curious now. It lowered its head, sniffing him, its breath hot and heavy. A single exhale could knock him down. Soldiers raised their weapons in fear, but the commander ordered them to hold fire. One wrong shot would end all of them. The larger creature slowly pulled back, studying Rylan with a strange intelligence. Then its gaze moved to the wounded Bloodfang again. Something changed in its posture. Confusion, hesitation. Recognition of the human's bond with the smaller creature. But hesitation didn't last. The large Bloodfang released another roar, preparing to strike. The wounded Bloodfang pushed Rylan aside and stepped forward, weakened but unbroken, ready to face the threat. The humans could only watch, breaths held, as two powerful beings prepared to clash, one fueled by survival, the other by dominance. And none of them knew which side the war truly depended on. The air trembled as the two Bloodfangs faced each other on the frozen plain. Snow whipped between them, carried by sharp winds that howled across the battlefield. The larger Bloodfang lowered its massive head, its glowing red eyes fixed on the wounded one. The smaller creature stepped forward despite its injuries, determined not to retreat. The humans held their positions behind Rylan, unsure how to help but unwilling to abandon the creature that had saved them. Rylan felt his heartbeat pounding faster with every second. He knew the wounded Bloodfang could not survive a direct clash, yet the creature stood tall, refusing to submit. It was not only a fight for survival, but a fight for identity, for freedom, maybe even for honor. The larger Bloodfang roared, a deep sound that cracked the air like thunder. The smaller one answered with a lower but steady growl. Rylan saw meaning in their sounds, something more than simple animal anger. He wondered if their species had rules, traditions, or a hierarchy unknown to humans. But questions would not stop the battle. The larger creature lunged forward, swinging a massive claw at the smaller one. The wounded Bloodfang dodged, but pain slowed its movements. The attack grazed its side, reopening part of the wound Rylan had healed. The creature stumbled but did not fall. Soldiers raised their weapons in panic, but the commander again ordered them not to fire. She knew any shot might trigger both creatures to attack the humans instead. Rylan watched helplessly as the smaller Bloodfang regained its footing. It circled the larger one, searching for an advantage. The drones above shifted position, watching silently. The larger Bloodfang struck again, this time with more force. The smaller creature blocked with its armored shoulder, the impact sending vibrations through the ice. The force pushed it back several steps, its claws scraping deep marks across the ground. Rylan felt fear tightening his chest. The wounded creature was losing, yet something unexpected happened. Instead of counterattacking, the smaller Bloodfang looked toward the humans. Its eyes lingered on Rylan for a long, quiet moment. It seemed to draw strength from him, from the bond that had formed between them. The larger creature hesitated, confused by the strange exchange. Rylan stepped forward again, ignoring the commander's frightened call. He placed his hand gently on the smaller Bloodfang's leg. The creature lowered its head, touching his shoulder softly with its snout. The gesture surprised everyone. The larger Bloodfang let out a confused rumble, watching the interaction with wide, unsettled eyes. Rylan spoke softly to the wounded creature, telling it not to fight alone. He said humans stood with it now. The smaller Bloodfang breathed out slowly, almost like a sigh. It turned toward the larger one again, its eyes glowing with renewed determination. But something subtle shifted in the larger Bloodfang as well. It did not attack immediately. It tilted its head, studying Rylan carefully. The human's courage, his refusal to run, his willingness to protect a creature feared across the galaxy. All of it made no sense to the larger beast. It stepped closer, lowering its head until its burning eyes were nearly level with Rylan. The humans held their breath, expecting the worst. But the creature only sniffed, testing the air around him, sensing something beyond scent, maybe loyalty, maybe compassion. Then it stepped back, shifting its gaze to the wounded Bloodfang again. The smaller creature let out a soft growl, not hostile but meaningful. The larger one answered with a low rumble. The drones above slowly backed away, as if the conflict between the two beasts had suddenly changed direction. Rylan realized something important. The larger Bloodfang had not come to kill its wounded kin. It had come to judge it, to see whether it had fallen or whether it had found something worth protecting. The smaller creature stepped forward again, standing tall even in pain. It did not bow. It did not retreat. Instead, it released a steady, calm sound that echoed across the ice. The larger Bloodfang listened. After a long moment, it lowered its head, this time not in aggression, but in acceptance. The tension in the air seemed to crack like thin glass. Soldiers stared in disbelief as the massive creature turned away. The drones followed it as it walked across the frozen plain, disappearing slowly into the gray fog. The wounded Bloodfang watched until the silhouette vanished completely. Then it lowered itself slowly onto the ice, exhausted but safe. Rylan rushed to its side, checking its wounds again. The creature was weak but alive. The commander approached, amazed. She asked Rylan what had happened, why the larger creature had stopped. Rylan could only give his best guess. The Bloodfangs were not monsters. They were a species with their own laws, their own decisions, their own way of seeing strength. The smaller Bloodfang had shown courage. It had shown loyalty to strangers, even to humans. And that had changed everything. The commander nodded slowly, looking at the defeated walkers scattered across the ice. She said the truth was clear now. The enemy had not been the Bloodfang. The enemy had feared it, hunted it, tried to crush it before it could stand beside others.